Hello, you're welcome to the next episode of our solutions to UNEB 2024 History and Political Education. Today, our emphasis is going to be on item number 3 of the UNEB 2024. And the question was, your class has organized a study tour to the Parliament of Uganda. The tour is to last for 4 days, during which you'll interact with every office. Your history and political education teacher has tasked you to organize a pre-trip meeting with the class, during which you brief the class on the offices you will interact with. Task: explain to the class the offices you will have interacted with by the end of the 4 days and the kind of information you'll have gained about the working of the Parliament. Now, when you look at item 3, we first need to source out which element of construct does it fall in. And now, in this case, item 3 falls in the element of construct number 3. Now, element of construct number 3 is what is known as the post-colonial history of East Africa. So we are looking at the history of East Africa after the colonialists have gone. And the topic where it lies is the structure of the government, the Parliament being part of the government. That is where our scenario and our task was generated from. Now, straight away, let us look at the approach of item 3. So as we saw in the previous videos, you realize that we always started with a problem. But in this case, the question did not require a problem. So what does it mean? At the end of the day, we are supposed to begin by writing an introduction. And this case, as we have seen in the previous classes, how do we generate the introduction? We generate the introduction, we define the key elements in the scenario. So, in this case, you realize we will begin by defining what a parliament is, because the parliament is the keyword in the scenario. So, we will say paragraph, the parliament refers to a group of elected leaders that help in the administration and the running of the country. So in this case, this can serve as our introduction. I've said we start by defining the keyword in the scenario, and in this case, the keyword is the parliament. Now, we have looked at the parliament. Going back to the task, they are saying, explain to the class the officers you will have interacted with by the end of the 4 days tour. So they are anticipating that your class is supposed to hold a tour to the parliament. So what were you supposed to mention? You are supposed to look at the offices that are found in the Parliament of Uganda. And if we are to start with, we are supposed to start with the office. We can say the offices that we anticipate to pay a visit in the parliament of Uganda include the following. This is a linking statement. Having seen the introduction, now you always have to provide a linking statement that will always now lead you to the body. Now, if we are to start with, we are going to start with the office. Okay, now the first office that we are supposed to begin with is the office of the Speaker of Parliament. Now, we are supposed to, first of all, identify the office of the Speaker of Parliament, and therefore, this qualifies us to get our first mark, that is the HK. Now, how do we get the HT? We get the HT by giving the two roles of the Speaker of the Parliament in Uganda. And you're supposed to go ahead and say the Speaker of the Parliament, is in charge of chairing the parliamentary sessions. Full stop. So like we've said, two roles. We're supposed to look at two roles of each of the office that we are mentioning. You could also go ahead and say the Speaker of Parliament. The Speaker of Parliament is also responsible for maintaining law and order in the Parliament. So, finishing our first office, we will finalize by saying, therefore, visiting the office of the Speaker will acquit my classmates with knowledge and works of the Speaker of Parliament. So here we have mentioned the point, we have explained the point, and we have given the relevance. So why is it necessary for us to anticipate that we should visit the Parliament? And what is it that we will benefit after visiting the Parliament? So we have said we will visit the Parliament in order to go and see the office of the Speaker of Parliament. That is the number one office that we are supposed to be in touch with. Then, what are the roles of the Speaker? We are supposed to mention two roles of the Speaker in order for you to qualify to get what is known as the HT. And lastly, you are supposed to link your answer to the question. That is the first office that we anticipate to encounter while we are at the Parliament. The second office that we anticipate to visit is the office of the Deputy Speaker. So another office that we anticipate to interact with while we are at the Parliament is the office of the Deputy Speaker of Parliament. Now, as we sit for our exam, you realize that once you mention the office of the Deputy of the Speaker of Parliament. That qualifies you to get 1 mark, and that mark is for the HK. But however, when you go ahead and mention the 2 roles that the Deputy Speaker does in the Parliament, then that will qualify you to get the HT. Now in this case, we will say the Deputy Speaker is in charge of assisting the Speaker of Parliament in his or her absence. Full stop. That is the first role. So the Deputy Speaker is in charge of assisting the Speaker of Parliament in his or her absence. Number 2, we could also say the Deputy Speaker formulates policy guidelines together with the House. We can say together with the parliamentarians. To ensure development in the country. So if you go ahead and mention the 2 roles that the Deputy Speaker does, you then qualify to get another mark of the HT. Now, lastly here, what is the importance of all this as to our class that anticipates to have interacted? Therefore, having interacted with the office of the Deputy Speaker, my classmates will be able to know the roles of the Deputy Speaker. Full stop. So therefore, we are supposed to mention the points such that we qualify to get the HK. We are supposed to at least give 2 roles of what that office does in the Parliament, and also we are supposed now to show the relevance of why you anticipate to interact with that office in the Parliament. Another office that we can look at while we are at the Parliament or while we interact with the Parliament is the office of the Leader of Opposition. Another office that we can look at is the office of the Leader of Opposition. So, now continuing, you realize we have very many offices that we anticipate to find at the Parliament of Uganda. And among others, we have the office of the Leader of Opposition. It is a very important office in the Parliament of Uganda. And you realize that this is the office that is in charge of holding the government accountable in a way, if at all we tend to receive funds from in form of aid, it is the office of the Leader of Opposition that is in charge of trying to ensure that the funds are meant to service what they are targeted for. Then you realize the Office of the Leader of Opposition is also in charge of looking at the policies that tend to benefit the local person. Then another very important office that we have in the Parliament of Uganda is the Office of the Clerk of Parliament. And this office is in charge of keeping the records in the Parliament. It also has a bigger responsibility of trying to make sure that the parliamentarians are disciplined. Then lastly, we can talk about the office of the different departments. So in the parliament, we have different departments, offices of different departments that handle different sectors. For example, we have the health sector, we have the education sector, among the others. Now, the other explanations, you will find them in the app. But before, I want to clearly clarify something small. The item required us to give 4 offices. But on the 4 offices, we needed to identify the office, give at least 2 roles of the office. So that means for a student to be an outstanding student, you are supposed to begin with the office of the speaker. Could mention the office of the speaker, the office of the deputy speaker, the office of the clerk of parliament, the office of the leader of opposition. But for as long as you qualify to get the scores, that means if you had mentioned the office, 4 offices, let us say the 4 offices, then you qualify to get the HK. If you go ahead and mention the 2 roles per office with the introduction, that means you qualified to get 60 scores. However, when you mention the 4 offices, and you mention 1 role per office, that means that you qualify to get 05 scores. However, if you only mention the offices, but you don't mention their roles, then that means you qualify to get 2 scores. So it is necessary for you to always look at the question, read the question again, give the point, that is what we term as the HK, give the explanation, that is what we term as the HT, and in case the question requires you to give the HA, then you go ahead to also include the HA such that you can become an outstanding learner. For more information, go to the app. You'll find all these offices explained. Thank you for listening. We meet in the next episode.